Folks, listen up. I want to take a brief moment and thank our podcast show sponsors, Lombardi Chiropractic, Native Path Supplements, and Redmond Life. Lombardi Chiropractic has been my personal chiropractor for 10 years and has kept my body strong and healthy. Native Path Supplements are used by numerous co-movement clients and our coaching team here at the facility. I highly recommend that you try their chocolate collagen peptides. I was made aware of Redmond Life by one of our trainers here at the facility. He recommended I try Relight electrolyte powder. This supplement has dramatically improved my afternoon energy levels and overall hydration. I'd like to thank these three companies for providing outstanding service and products that make our society healthier and more resilient. Mention the Co-Movement Gym podcast when you call Lombardi Chiropractic, and not only will they treat you like family, they will provide a nice, enticing discount to all listeners. And use code COMO15, that's C-O-M-O 15, at checkout when shopping at nativepath.com or redmond.life and receive 15% off all your orders. Your support to our show sponsors assists in us paying for expenses and continuing to provide content we hope you all enjoy. Welcome to the Co-Movement Gym podcast, where we inspire people to move and live courageously. We got me and Andy's sitting in the studio today. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing good. How you doing, bud?
Not bad. This is a topic you brought up, actually.
Yeah. Strength standards for high schoolers.
Yeah.
And basically, it just came to me because we see a lot of high school kids that come to the gym, and I think you and I are both pretty regularly shocked by what they're capable of in terms of fitness. And I just think that 50 years ago, high schoolers were capable of a lot more in terms of strength and fitness than they are these days. I know they keep lowering the standards for passing the presidential physical fitness test. And I don't know, I think that we could do a little bit better as far as physical education from elementary school all the way through high school. And if kids were prepared right, this podcast is about what we think the average high schooler should be able to do in an ideal world.
Absolutely. I've seen the same trends, and we're focusing now in high school sports so much on skill.
Yeah, specialization.
Yes.
But none of the basics of fitness.
And overall athleticism. Right. We're seeing huge imbalances, and now there's just a ton of injuries with these kids. Mm-hmm. They're overtraining. They eat like crap, and it's just. But yet they're good at kicking a soccer ball.
Right.
And so, but they can't do 2 chin-ups. So the purpose of this, and we'll give credit where credit's due. The high school coaches, most of them are unpaid.
Oh yeah.
They just volunteer, and they're not strength coaches.
Right.
And so, who should be filling that void? I'm biased. I think they should have coaches, right? Like whether it's our gym or whatever, even online type stuff like YouTube. There's really good stuff. But your football coach is not necessarily a strength coach.
Right.
So don't necessarily listen to this episode and just go run to your coach and think that they should have all the solutions, right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, we're the professionals in that field, other gyms, and that's what they do.
Right.
So that's just a small disclaimer of that. So, and the other thing that we're going to get into some metrics that we think the average athlete should be able to do. Obviously, this is generalized.
Very.
So I don't want you to get emails or comments to say, well, in this situation, this is generalized, and this is going to fit like 90% of people.
Yeah, I'm wondering what you've come up with for this, because one of the challenges I had when I was thinking about this topic was different body types and genders and stuff like that. So we might throw out some metrics where we say the average high school kid should be able to do this, but people come in all different shapes and sizes.
For sure. In injury backgrounds, torso lengths, leg lengths, right?
Of course.
There's 1,000 ways. But I don't think we're going to be that far off. And again, my standard, these are pretty low. Like I just want overall basics down. Yeah. And then you can build on the foundations of like heavier back squats. So like I'm not going to necessarily geek to like, percentages with back squat relative to deadlift, relative to power clean.
No.
We have all of that, and we can go there if we need to. But in this situation, we want Johnny to be a balanced athlete that's not going to get killed on the field because he can't do a side bridge, and go from there.
Yeah, or just a balanced human that's not going to injure himself when he's 25 years old because he
absolutely
has a weak core,
for sure.
Whatever.
For sure, because what we're caring about beyond your little heyday with athletics in high school is longevity.
Yes.
And what good is it to be the superstar in your town and then you go to school, college, and then life moves on, but your knees suck and right? I mean, you can go on and on.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. We're on the same page there. I stuck to the basics too because, in my point of view, I don't expect high school kids to be able to do any sort of complex lifts or anything like that. But there are fundamentals that I want them to be capable of when they get out of high school. It's amazing to me, being personal trainers, when we see these high school kids that they can't even hold a plank in the right position or can't do one push-up or whatever.
Yep.
These are the fundamentals that I think every human should be capable of, for the most part.
For sure.
By high school age.
For sure, absolutely, and
and then they can come to a gym like ours if they want to advance into the more difficult things.
For sure, or they truly don't know where to start to improve some of these movements.
Sure, absolutely.
Me and you worked with the Fit Kids company there for a while, and what we saw with that, right, is I'll give the listeners some statistics here. 71% of middle schoolers can't do a push-up.
Right.
81% of high schoolers can't do a chin-up. Mm-hmm. And the imbalances for right to left core work and the ability to squat like normally with no weight is just such small numbers now. And these aren't even athletic standards.
Right.
This is what I consider life standards.
Right. That's what I want with here. My metrics are not what you need to be an all-star athlete. It's just what you need to be a generally fit human as you leave high school.
Yes, and so if your aspirations, you're listening to this, or for your kid or whatever, if they're going beyond high school to D3, maybe D1, this is not that conversation. So I want to be clear with that.
Yeah.
Those are different leagues, totally different standards, but so let's dive in.
Before we do, I wonder, I would love to see, and I don't think these metrics exist, but you said, for example, 70% of middle schoolers can't do a push-up. Mm-hmm. We have some metrics around that that we went through in the Fit Kids program for current day kids, middle schoolers and high schoolers. I'd be very curious. I wish there were metrics out there that showed us what the average middle schooler or high schooler was capable of in 1930, 1970, and so on. Yeah. Because I have a feeling that the introduction of the tablets and iPhones and social media and just the changes in lifestyle have made a really big difference over the last 50 years.
Well, the average athlete in those time periods, as you just said, were farmers or construction on weekends, and they're mowing their lawn or whatever.
And what did they have to entertain themselves with when they did get playtime? It was go outside and play.
Yes. And we have, I'm sure you've seen the same videos as me, but the old school PE videos, they're in black and white.
Yeah.
And they're climbing ropes like maniacs and cargo nets, and they're doing burpees and all this. And everyone there, 95% of them are aesthetically fit.
Yep, they look fit.
Yeah, and you have some outliers, and that is what it is, and that's fine too.
Sure.
But definitely, they didn't have the luxuries, and so their bodies hardened, guys and girls, around that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so that would maybe be depressing to see that, but I'm not sure, but I know now in PE class, gosh, it's no more ropes, no more cargo nets, and it's a lot of what you said before, watered down standards.
Yeah, or they play games that don't require much athleticism or skill at all, and if one kid is not really putting in any effort, there's not really much of a push to get them involved.
No, and now for this through the grapevine, they're saying it's physical education. So if Johnny doesn't want to play basketball, he can write a report on basketball. Because it's still education within a physical realm, which to me is a joke.
I personally think that PE class should be for teaching you how to move your body properly.
Totally.
Learn. We all have a body, and at some point you have to learn how to move it correctly and how to do all these basic fundamental human movements. And that really should be the focus of what they do from elementary school all the way through high school.
In elementary, kids by default like PE.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
No, I'm saying like all of them, regardless of ability.
Yep.
And to me, the question is, what gets fucked up along the way? Like, why do middle schoolers, half of them want to just sit on the sidelines? Like, where in that transition does things go? And we don't need to answer that now. We can do a whole podcast on that maybe. But like, realistically, like you go to a third grade PE class, they're all running around like
all involved.
little puppies, and they're sweating, and regardless of what you're doing. But it's amazing to me that how that shit, and then high school's even worse. Those kids will do anything to get out of PE, many of them.
It blows my mind. I mean, to me, granted, I went to high school 25 years ago, but to me, that was playtime. That was like, oh, we don't have a class. We get to like run around and play. And...
I skipped lunch to go play basketball.
Yep.
Soaked in sweat for the afternoon.
Me too. I eat my lunch in 5 minutes.
That was me. That was me.
No, I think it's I really do think it's like the fact that kids are so stuck on their phones and stuff. Yeah. Like they all little kids, like you said, the elementary schoolers love to run and play and use their bodies. But once the tablets and the phones and stuff are introduced, and that takes over a kid's mind, everything else is boring to them.
I agree.
Including physical play.
I agree.
And I think that's why most of them want to sit on the sidelines.
For sure. So we're gonna rip through these pretty quick, time wise, but also there's no reason to get into super details with these.
Sure.
We're talking about specific metrics, so if you're listening, take notes.
Yeah, and Josh and I haven't talked about this ahead of time, so I have no idea what you have in your list.
But that's what I love about this.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so I'll start. I'm gonna start off with a basic hinging movement, the deadlift.
Okay, yeah, that's on my list too.
Okay. I'm gonna say body weight. This is high school athletes. Body weight, 5 reps with perfect form. Did you have that?
So for all of mine, I put down like a minimum, what I'd like to see an absolute minimum.
Yep.
And then I've got my ideally what they can do.
Okay.
My ideal is 5 reps, perfect deadlift with 100% body weight.
Oh, that's crazy.
The exact same
thing.
We
did not talk about that.
No, my minimum for that was five reps of a perfect deadlift with half your body weight.
Sure.
The thing is for me, I've seen a lot of the high schoolers come in here and they can't even get into the proper position for a deadlift.
No.
They have no idea where their back is, whether it's straight or not. They have the strength to pull the weight off the ground, but not with good form, And the deadlift is one of the most beneficial movements ever. It requires a strong back, especially the postural muscles. Like people sit in chairs these days have bad posture. Those muscles protect the spine. Gives you a strong posterior chain, hamstrings and glutes, which most people neglect or don't know how to activate.
And I want to add to that, we consider the king of the lower body, the glutes and the hamstrings, right?
Yeah.
That is the engine room. I don't care your quads look like your calves. It's the glutes and the hamstrings. That's the power.
If you want to be an athlete, there's going to be a lot of running and jumping, and there are a few exercises better than the deadlift to get you strong in those motions.
I did those today.
Those things should be powered by your glutes.
For sure. And I recommend for people listening, if you've got kids yanking crazy amounts of weight at school, which is very common, check their form out.
Yeah,
this is the culture.
Perfect form.
Yes, this is the culture of like, I can deadlift 350, and like, yeah, man, you're gonna pull out your total back. That's horrible. You can't even get into the right position.
Right.
So perfect form first, then build the muscles around the perfect form to lift that weight.
This is gonna be a common theme because on all of mine, I emphasize perfect form.
Yep.
I would much rather see a high school kid coming here for training, and maybe they're very weak, but they can at least get into the right positions and do it with the proper mechanics.
Totally.
Because we spend 4, 6, 8 weeks sometimes with a new kid that we're training, just teaching them how to do it correctly. And it takes a while to learn. So if they can learn that when they're in middle school and high school, it sets them up for a lot more success later on in life.
Absolutely. And understand that if you're training the wrong form with big weights, you're just getting muscles stronger that shouldn't be stronger necessarily, because you're not using your low back necessarily, right? Maybe more hamstrings and whatnot. You need to train the muscles for perfect form to be strong.
Absolutely.
And if your kid is heavy, right, let's say 250, and is like, oh, you expect them to do it? Yeah, because heavier kids should be more powerful. And so, yes, it's even more reason they need to be stronger.
Yeah.
So, all right, anything else more on the deadlift?
No, that's it for
Okay.
deadlift for me. So
All right, so we went 1 for 1 on that one.
you gave the lower body pull exercise for deadlift. So
Yep.
I'll do the lower body push, which for me is the squat.
Yep.
Because it is a fundamental human movement. Every human being should be able to squat. You want to be able to squat through your whole life. We're all going to need to get down, get up, and without blowing out our backs or ruining our knees because we have bad form, bad hip mechanics. So I would really like to see high schoolers be capable of, at a minimum, I said 5 reps of a perfect goblet squat.
Awesome.
With about 25 to 30% of their body weight. So we're talking about 5 reps of a goblet squat with maybe 30 to 50 pounds with really good form.
Sure.
That's the important thing.
Yes.
Ideally, I said 5 reps of a perfect front squat with 50% plus of their body weight.
Yes.
So if you've got a 160 pound kid, I'd like to see them be able to do 5 reps of a front squat with 80 pounds.
Yes.
If I had a high school kid come here that I was going to train and they can do that on day 1 with perfect form, I'm really excited about where I can take them in the next couple of months.
That's a great start because, like we said, getting stronger is actually the easy part. It's the form that is the baseline that takes all those months to get back. Oh, I love that. And I love the goblet squat. I love the front squat.
Goblet squats are easier to learn good form with than a front squat is.
Sure,
so
it's safer.
And safer. So if they can just do a front or a goblet squat with good technique, I'm really happy there at a minimum.
Yeah.
If they can advance a little further to a front squat, that's even more beneficial, and I'm very happy with that.
That's great. Yep. So I'm not far off on this, even our percentages. I went with the split squat.
Oh, cool.
So this is unilateral, right leg, left leg. So for people listening, the split squat is a lunge, but your rear foot is elevated on a bench that is knee height.
Yep. So people, if they want to look that up on YouTube, could look up either a rear leg elevated split squat, or sometimes they're called Bulgarian split squats.
Yes.
Yep.
So dumbbell version, I'm looking at 25% body weight per hand.
Okay.
So
that's tough.
the kid weighs 200 pounds.
Yep.
It's 50s per hand.
Yep.
Big kid. And that's 8 per leg. And,
Okay.
That's
a little more advanced than the one that I have, but that's.
The standard that I grew up with, working with James Fitzgerald and OPEX in that community was actually a 3rd body weight for 8 reps. I lowered it, whether it's a little high, I'm not sure, but if you're close to that, you're in decent shape. I love the split squat, the rear leg elevated split squat, because it's unilateral. So a lot, like, say, take a soccer player that kicks right, his left sock since it's weak. But you won't realize that until you do the split squat or a lunge or whatever.
Yeah, so to your point, when I'm training clients, I favor that exercise, the rear leg elevated split squat, over a regular squat. Both very beneficial, obviously. But I love that unilateral work for all the reasons you just said, including getting rid of imbalances. When one leg is stronger than the other, or one hip flexor is tighter than the other and they can't go to the range of motion, we can correct those imbalances with that rear leg elevated split squat.
This is a hard movement for a lot of people with body weight.
But man, if I got a high schooler in here that could do perfect form rear leg elevated split squats, I'm very happy.
Check their body weight day 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
And their power, FYI, is going to go through the roof in sports if they can get even near that 25%.
Oh, absolutely. One of the most athletic exercises you can do.
Totally agree. All right, cool. I'm going to get into now the core. And again, how you define that, I'm not sure, because the first 2 movements we talked about still all core.
Oh, yeah.
Just
to throw it out there for listeners, the best core exercises tend to be ones that people don't think of as core, like a squat, a deadlift. That's a lot of core strength. And actually, I would say more beneficial for the core than a lot of the core isolation exercises like sit-ups and things, but still, we do want to test their core strength on its own. So what do you got for that?
Well, I have 2 similar, but toes to bar.
Okay,
I'm a huge fan of that. So for people listening, you literally hang The first version is with straight arms, and you simply bring your toes to the bar. You can get there any way you want. Generally, there's only one way. You gotta lift your feet, but the kipping I don't like, but just lift your toes to the bar. The second version is a bent arm, knees to elbows.
Oh, nice.
So you pull up to like a third or a half pull up.
Yep.
And then all I'm asking you to do is touch your knees to your elbows, not your
That's good.
triceps, not your armpit, but your elbow.
Yeah.
And I want 5 reps of each. I think that proves, reasonable core strength.
I think so too, and I like the knees to elbows thing with the bent arm because it's going to force you to use your abs and actually flex your spine.
Yep.
You can't just do hip flexors only. Your knees are not going to get to your elbows.
Yes.
So we actually guarantee that they're using their core, which is what we're testing here.
And this is an eye opener for everyone out there that they think sit-ups are the way, and sit-ups are what they are. The military and police still think that that's the way to test kids.
It's unbelievable to me that all these fitness tests always have sit-ups in there.
Yeah.
And sit-ups are fine. You can do them if you want to, but there's so much more beneficial core exercises. And the hanging knee raise is definitely one of them, or the toe to bar, like you said.
Absolutely. It's been probably 12 years since I've done a sit-up.
I'll do them occasionally because sometimes I think they feel nice.
Sure.
But that's all I'm getting out of it is I just enjoy the feeling.
For sure. So what do you got?
Well, for core, we're pretty much on the same page here again.
Okay.
I'll tell you the notes that I got here just to say that core strength is fundamental to being able to execute almost any other movement well. Because when our core muscles get weak, our movements become uncontrolled and sloppy, and we see that a lot. People kind of all over the place.
Yep.
And it's because of a weak core. They might be doing a leg exercise or an arm exercise, but their form isn't good because their core isn't strong enough to keep good posture.
Totally.
So they're kind of flopping all over. And
a good example of that I saw yesterday was a client doing a strict barbell overhead press.
Yep.
And the weight was pretty significant, might have been like 115.
Yeah, so very strong with his arms.
Yep. But it was at the top, it was like bamboo.
Yeah.
And they're like, the kid's core is strong, no doubt, but like not strong enough to lock that weight down. But it was amazing to see that,
Yeah, absolutely. I said strong core muscles allow an athlete to generate greater force through the extremities. So like the arms, like you're saying, or the legs in like a split squat or something. Just because the strong core gives you a stable center that you can push from or pull from with your arms and legs. And what I like to see high schoolers capable of is, at a minimum, 5 full range of motion hanging knee raises.
Oh, okay. So for people listening, that's easier than the toes to bar, but still a great movement.
Well, this was my minimum.
Okay. Sure.
Yep. And notice I said full range of motion hanging knee raises.
So define that for people listening.
That's what I was going to do, because a lot of people will keep their back very straight, and they'll just pull their knees up, and their knees will get to about hip level. And to most people, that's a hanging knee raise. You brought your knees up to level with your hips. But when your back stays straight, you're not really using your core, because if you're using your abdominals, you're actually going to flex your spine like you do in a sit-up, where you crunch your spine forward, So when I say full range of motion, what I usually try to get clients doing here is ideally getting their knees all the way up to their chest or their chin. Because if you bring your knees up to hip level, that's just hip flexors. We're not using the abs at all. We're not using the core at all. But if you get your knees to go past your hips, up to your chest or face, now you're curling the spine, now you're using your core muscles.
And that's the exact almost movement as the bent arm is.
Exactly, yeah. Your bent arm version forces them to use their abs, which I like.
For sure.
I'm just saying, I like to see them do it, the regular version, but using their abs, so they gotta get their knees up to their, I like to say, your chin.
We call that compression.
Yep, like compression strength.
It's compression strength.
Yeah. So that was my minimum, and then my maximum for that was 5 toe to bar.
Oh wow, this is crazy.
I also in core, for the fun of it, I threw in a second one. I would say being able to do at least a 30-second side plank on each side. with perfect form, I just like to see people, high schoolers, be able to demonstrate good alignment there. No piking of the hips, no twisting or rotating the body.
I almost put that one in there. Yeah, but I didn't. But I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
And we see imbalances there. So you may have can do 30 seconds and then 60 seconds, right? Like right to left. And that's an eye opener, for the imbalance there. That's good. Anything else for core?
No, that was it for core for me.
All right. So let's go to mobility.
Okay.
We may agree on this.
I've only got one thing for mobility. It's funny that we have all the same categories too.
Sure. I have two.
Okay.
They're very simple. One is toe touch, locked knees. Okay. And again, most people want to bend 5-10 degrees to get that extra few inches. But toe touch, that's the minimum. Like ideally palms flat to the floor.
Yeah.
And I like a 10-second hold because a lot of people like to bounce and then they say they did it and they're good.
Right.
A 10-second hold, deep breathing, they can actually stay there and sink in. That's a great test, I think. And we see a ton of tight hamstrings, which creates low back issues. And then my king of mobility for lower body, everyone should know this by now if you listen regularly, is straddle up. I love the straddle up from the floor if you can do it. If not, you got to start on a box and work down. But the adductors and the hips and everything, and most people are not only tight, but they're weak. They can't even hold the middle split. And it's not a true middle split, it's like a half a middle split, right?
Yep.
But I think that those two movements in the lower especially demonstrate pretty sufficient abilities, but unfortunately 90% of people are poor.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how tight the average person's hamstrings are and adductors. Their ability to straddle, which means to spread your legs wide, like a middle split basically. High schoolers, especially the high school boys that I see, I don't know if they can open up their legs to a 90-degree angle most of the time, and you should be able to get well past that, 130, 140 degrees, whatever. Obviously, if you could do a full 180 degrees, that would be a middle split. That's pretty extreme.
Sure.
But to be stuck only being able to open them 90 degrees, you've got very tight groin muscles.
And think about the number of groin injuries.
Yeah.
And hamstring pulls. Wow. I'm not saying it's all due to mobility, but I would take a wager that if you were more mobile there, you would have less injuries.
Yeah.
And no one in especially high school wants to train that stuff because it's like, oh, it's not fancy. But being faster and stronger is fancy. And to get that, what I tell people with mobility is you like taking the e-brake off a car.
Yeah.
And so
you don't have tight muscles holding you back.
Totally.
You're not fighting against your own body.
No, and these are not even advanced movements. Like nothing compared to what we've seen and experienced.
And as much as you said these are not fancy or fun to train, I actually like doing stretching.
I do too. I do almost every day.
When it comes to stretching, most people do think it's boring because most people think of like just sitting and holding a static stretch for 30 seconds or something. But straddle ups, at least you're moving. And I actually kind of enjoy them. They feel good.
I agree. Totally agree. So that's all I had for mobility.
Did you have like a height that they should do straddle ups from or anything like that?
No, I just said from the floor.
Okay, well let me get into that because mobility, I almost said toe touch.
Okay.
But I actually ended up going with straddle ups.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I just said, most high schoolers have incredibly tight hamstrings and adductor muscles, more so than probably any other muscle in their lower body. And this particular movement addresses both of those things. I said a minimum I'd like to see them doing, 10 reps or so from a 14-inch box. Now, 14 inches is not too high off the ground or too low. Like that's a good middle range. And most of the high schoolers or kids that I've worked with can't do that right off the bat. They're bending their knees. Their groin muscles are screaming. That's the minimum for me. Ideally, I'd like to see them doing straddle ups from an 8-inch box.
Okay.
If I had a high school boy come in here and on his first day he could do a straddle up from an 8-inch target.
That's true.
That's phenomenal.
That's true.
There's not a lot of gaining length in your muscles and doing stretching and flexibility training takes a really long time.
Sure.
And I'd love to see these kids able to do it without having to go through those 6 months of training just to loosen up.
Totally. Great. Man, yeah, so we're not far off on that. My floor might be a little stretching, but your advice there is great for people listening. 8 to 14 inches. Sit on a box, keep your legs locked, roll forward, pressing off your hands into that straddle up.
Yep.
And you hit that. I agree with you totally. Great base, phenomenal base. When I started training these a while back, I was on a 24-inch box. It's that bad. It's that tight.
I remember that. I remember seeing the video of you doing that.
Yeah, I got a video somewhere on YouTube, but it was like humblingly hard. And I was squatting a lot of the time, which I have no idea. But
you never worked on flexibility
nothing,
prior to that.
No, nothing in that kind of.
So you're strong but tight.
Yeah, very. It was humbling, and it hurt too. But
one thing I'll say about flexibility and mobility is I really wish that was something that was practiced in PE class from kindergarten all the way through high school. One of the reasons that high schoolers become so tight, like especially the high school boys we see, they can't bend over and touch the floor, they can barely touch their shins, It's because when you go through puberty as a boy, your skeleton grows like crazy. A kid will go from 5'5" to 5'11" in like a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
When your bones are lengthening that quickly, your muscles don't lengthen at the same rate. So now your muscles are being stretched across these bones, and they become really tight. So, but as kids, if you ask any kindergartner, first grader, second grader to bend over and touch the toes or whatever, they can all do it very easily. And this is a case of use it or lose it. The problem is they can all do it when they're in elementary school, great flexibility, but then they don't continue to do it through middle school and high school. So when they get to high school and they're like, oh, can I bend over, touch my toes? Not even close. But if in PE class, they were just practicing a couple of these basic stretches every week, and you did that kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth, all the way through high school, you'd get to high school and you'd still have it, use it or lose it.
And they would literally only have to do this 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, that's it. Because once you've got the skill, which they all have when they're really, really young, you have to do very little to maintain it.
Absolutely.
But when you stop doing it completely, it goes away.
And getting it back takes it took me like 2 years to get that straddle up.
Yep.
Versus now cold, coming out of bed, I can do it from the floor.
Right.
Just because it adapted that way, right? But you're absolutely right. Those warm-ups, just a warm-up, like it doesn't even have to be the core section in PE. Like the warm-up, 5-10 minutes of like this similar routine all the time. It's just what you do. You definitely will grow around that ability.
Yep.
But
it's like the people that we see who maybe did ballet or dance from when they were a little kid all the way through, or gymnastics or something like that. So these are the ones who are stretching regularly from a young age all the way through. When they get to high school, they can bend over and put their elbows on the floor,
Yep.
It's just a matter of making it a regular routine through your youth.
Yes.
And then you'll have it when you're an adult.
So we've had a lot of examples here where like former dancer, gymnast, or whatever come in, done not a whole lot for like 10 years.
Yep.
And they ace the assessment. The assessment's not hard here,
right? Yep.
But like pretty darn good because they had it really good in the day all through their childhood, and then life got busy. But they, it's amazing to me.
So some advice for parents is if you have a really young kid and you see them do something like bend over and touch their toes, or you ask them to do a pancake stretch and they can put their head on the floor, congratulate them, be like, that's awesome. And then like, regularly every week or whatever, say, can you do that again? Because I did that with my youngest niece. She was incredibly flexible because she was probably 4 years old when we did this. And every time she comes to visit, we do like a little mobility thing in the living room where I'm like, can you do the pancake stretch still? And just touching that movement regularly throughout your youth is going to make you so much better off in high school.
Totally agree. Totally, and then you have a foundation to build strength off of.
Yeah.
Awesome. I've got 2 more.
Okay.
What do you got?
Oh, you want to do an upper body push or an upper body pull?
Upper body pull. I've got. Yeah. So go ahead.
Okay. So for me, it was chin ups.
Me too. Okay.
So yeah, this requires strength in the lats, the teres major, the rhomboids, lower and mid traps, biceps, all your pulling movements. So it's a good. It hits all of the pull movements for the upper body, or the pulling muscles. Tremendous health benefits again. Most high schoolers and most people I think are anterior dominant. which means that they're more developed in their pushing muscles. And that leads to rounded shoulders and poor posture and, neck pain later in life.
We see this a ton with bench press.
It's such an imbalance.
Oh my
Because a high
God.
school boy will bench press 3 days a week, but never do any back work.
Never. And we see it where like they're bench like 225 for like 5. And we're like, oh, all right, that's pretty good. But then they can't hang or do a chin up.
Right.
Or ring rows or like, proper retraction of this upper back.
Yeah, so
the muscles are dead.
The whole front of their body is strong and there's nothing in the back.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous imbalance.
We would rather be, we say this all the time, 6-pack on the back.
Yeah, I'd much rather be stronger in the back. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you have for chin up? I'm curious because mine's unique.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, mine's pretty basic, so we might be different here. That's good. My minimum, this was hard because it's going to be so different for different kids depending on their weight and so on. So the average kid, I was thinking 5 chest to bar chin ups, or I was thinking for this one maybe it'd be different standards for boys and girls.
Sure.
Probably. So
Sure.
5 perfect chest to bar chin ups would make me happy, and then for a girl maybe 5 reps, but with a light band assistance or something like that.
Sure.
And then I said, ideally, I'd like to see the boys doing 10 perfect chest to bar chin ups, full dead hang, full range of motion, chest to bar, good form, not swinging around. And for girls, I'd love to see them being able to do up maybe 3 reps of a perfect chest to bar chin up.
Yep.
And we've got plenty of females to do that. I've seen plenty of high school girls do that.
Sure.
It's just a matter of whether they've worked on it or not.
I was just gonna say that too, not only here, but just anyone that is working on that regularly. We have a handful or more here doing 10 or more chin-ups, muscle-ups, rope climbs, so you can get there. But so, yeah, that, you went way beyond what I did.
Okay, yeah.
No, that's some serious pulling power, which is amazing, but you know what though, realistically, if your body weight's in check and you train it, like when we were, well, even now, but like we could do over 20, right, 25. And we weren't training it like organized, and we were just playing with it, right? So I like that. I really like that.
I was
3 to 10 range.
I was thinking back to when I was in high school and we had to do chin-ups for like physical fitness tests and that sort of thing. And me and most of my guy friends were easily able to do like 12, 13, 15, some people got to like 18 or 20. So I don't think that 10 is unreasonable for the average high school boy.
Yeah.
I know that chin-ups tend to be a lot harder for females usually. But I'd love to see them be able to do at least 1 chin-up. If they could do 2 or 3, that'd be phenomenal.
And for people listening, if you hear what Andy's saying, chest to bar.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. If you don't think so, go try it. 95% of people doing chin-ups, pull-ups are getting their Adam's apple to the bar.
Yeah.
We're getting the nipple line to the bar.
I think one of the worst things that happened with the chin-up was the name. They called it the chin-up.
Totally.
And then they said the standard for doing a chin-up is getting your chin over the bar. And that leads to everyone looking up so they can try to stretch their neck and reach their chin over the bar.
Yes.
And that's just not good form. You're shortening the range of motion. You're cricking your neck, you want to keep your head facing forward and just pull that bar down to your chest.
And the muscles being worked are dramatically different.
Yep, you got a lot of scapular depression.
Yes, scapular depression is huge. It's still both arms, biceps, whatever, but at the top of the chin over bar, there's internal rotation on that shoulder. It's the exact opposite with a chest to bar is, I don't know if you call that external rotation, but there's a strong retraction.
It's retracted and which is what we want. The chin over bars, you see a lot of protraction and shrugging of the shoulders.
Yeah.
So the chest to bar puts your shoulders in the right position and they are slightly more externally rotated.
Yeah. Anything else with pulling?
No, that was my.
All right, well, I'm gonna go backwards with this standard a little, but maybe this will be good for a few people listening. I like a chin up negative, stepping off a box.
Oh, we use those all the time here. Yep.
Stepping off a box with your chest at the bar. Okay, so you gotta lock that off. So step off a box, chest at the bar. 15 seconds, full range of motion, lowering, control.
Great.
1 rep.
Yep.
And again, the point of this podcast for us is like, I'm just looking at structural ability. Like, you bring us any client, male or female, that can do that, 15 seconds, the full range, all the way to dead hang, with the chest to the bar, starting that range of motion, we can work from there.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because that's when we get clients who can't do a chin up, and that's one of their goals. That's where we start, is that chin up negative that you're describing.
Absolutely. And it gives anyone listening to this, for the most part, hope, right? In terms of like, they can step off the box and put their knee in a band and start working towards that. And like, don't even, and we tell a lot of people, don't even care about going up until you can get the down, the negative, good. And then the up is pretty easy after that, generally. You know, and so, yeah, and then I did put a second piece in here, and you're like this, 90-second hang.
Oh, fantastic. I got that later, so.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I can talk about that now too, but you go ahead and talk about the hang.
Well, just as we've said many times, but like hanging is a huge milestone with the upper body. Tendon strength, ligaments, grip strength, all for the shoulders, which are the, you know, not the king, the main part of the upper body. I'm amazed at the number of people that can't hang. Like some people, not at all, let alone for anything over 30 seconds. Their grip is slipping, which is a strength indicator in many cases. But shoulders burn, or you know, one side hurts. Me and you hang daily. I hang all the time, and our shoulders are healthy and strong, right?
It's one of the best things you can do for shoulder health. It creates a little distraction, meaning that it pulls apart that shoulder joint a little, like you said. Stretches out, puts minor stress on the tendons and ligaments, and gets those to become stronger. It's probably the best thing that you can do for shoulder health if you just wanted to do one thing.
Absolutely, and you do it when you wake up, before you go to bed, during the day. Traction for the spine.
Yeah, we tell a lot of clients here to try to hang for, it depends on the client, but we might say hang for 2 minutes a day. And that doesn't mean you hang from a pull bar for 2 minutes. You can break that into 10 seconds and do it, you know, whatever that would be, 12 times. But yeah, just hang regularly is the.
If people really want to knock their socks off with this, and you did this too, and I did, I think, for a month, 7 minutes a day. It's Ito, Portal's challenge. That literally transformed my shoulders. And like, you're thinking, oh, how did that transform your shoulders? You're just hanging. Try it. 7 minutes of hanging accumulated every day for 30 days, things change. Your shoulders feel way better, they get more flexible, they get stronger, your grip improves.
It's interesting in that it also is a great stretch for your pecs and your lats,
big time.
Which is really nice.
And my T-spine cracks a ton, my low back, my pelvis pops sometimes in a good way. It's just phenomenal, and it seems overly simplistic, but it's produces huge results.
It's funny, we had the same things there. I just wrote grip strength and hanging. Incredibly important, because your grip is what connects you to everything. You know, whether you're lifting weights or doing manual labor or whatever you're doing, we use our hands for everything, and a strong grip makes all of that a lot easier to do. And hanging is also beneficial for shoulder health. We already talked about that. I said I'd like to see high schoolers capable of, at minimum, hang from a pull-up bar for 1 minute for boys or 30 seconds for girls, and ideally 2 minutes for boys and 1 minute for girls.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
If every high schooler could do that, that'd be phenomenal for them.
For sure. For sure. I have one more for this episode. I'm not sure what you have remaining.
Not much, maybe 2 more.
Okay, so go ahead.
Well, okay, so I went with an upper body push as well. And for that, I chose push-ups. It's the basic, pretty fundamental movement. I'd rather see people doing good push-ups than a good bench press or dumbbell bench press or any of that. Like, get to the weights later, but be able to control and master your body first. I like push-ups because they require strength in all the pressing muscles, you know, the chest, triceps, shoulders, all that stuff. But they also require excellent body awareness, you know, the ability to control your pelvis, keep a posterior pelvic tilt, keep your abs tight, your glutes tight, knowing how to keep a straight body line. One of the things that blows me away is how many young kids don't know that they're sticking their butt up in the air, or that their hips are sagging down low. You know, we've done this for a long time, and I can feel when my body's in a straight line. And I'd like to see kids capable of that as well, have that awareness.
What you're bringing up is a huge point for people listening, is staying hollow
Yep.
and with that posterior pelvic tilt,
Yep.
while doing a chest to floor push-up.
Yes.
That is a huge difference than the snake version where you just arch your low back, you break in the hips, or you pike the hips, right? Try keeping, and you look this up if you're not aware, but like hollow rock position or posterior pelvic tilt, like keep that low back flat, maybe slightly rounded, then touch the chest and don't break in the core when you come up on the push-up. It's for people even that are good at push-ups, quote unquote, those are way harder.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to do a push-up correctly, because when you get into more advanced movements, ring push-ups, weighted ring push-ups, dips, any kind of that work, your core needs to be prepped for that. And if you can't handle your body weight on the ground, you need to work on core strength and pushing.
There's a lot of abilities that people want, and they have goals that they want to get to, but you have to master these fundamentals first with perfect form to make sure your body is ready to do those more advanced things.
Yep.
And a perfect push-up in the way you described is exactly what
I do
that's a
push-ups
prerequisite.
almost every time I work out as a warm-up. Like today I did some handstand pressing work and stuff, and like I hit 2 sets of 10 before, just to make sure my shoulder joints are feeling good, I'm locked hollow, triceps feel okay. It's just feeling that out. So we don't get away from these movements.
No, that's a good point. We're talking fundamentals here. None of these are complex or advanced exercises, but there's still things that we do regularly, usually as a warm-up to prepare yourself for your more advanced stuff.
Absolutely.
I said I'd like to see high schoolers capable of, at minimum, 10 perfect push-ups from the floor, and I said 5 for girls.
Yes.
And then ideally, I thought it'd be great if high school boys could do 5 perfect weighted ring push-ups. Now that's not something that most kids are gonna be able to do. They don't have gymnastics rings or whatever.
Sure.
But if they were capable of doing a weighted ring push-up.
We're a big fan of that.
Yeah,
and that's new.
And I said with like 20 or 25 pounds for boys.
Yeah.
If you can do 5 reps with that with perfect form, you're in great shape to move on to more advanced things.
Yeah, so ring weighted push-up.
And then for girls, I said perfect form ring push-ups. And sometimes we set the rings down by the floor where they're just like 3 inches off the floor. I'd be more than happy if they could raise those rings up to knee height, which makes it a little bit easier, but still control the movement where the form stays perfect, the core is engaged, they're using all the right muscles and the right mechanics.
When you want to talk about stability, which is hugely important, especially in sports, the rings bring that out.
Yeah, that's why my minimum was floor push-ups.
Sure.
And I'm more than happy if they can do those, 10 floor push-ups for boys, 5 for girls. But if they want to do a more advanced thing, my ideal was the ring push-ups because it just adds that instability. And if they can control that movement as well as they can control the floor push-up, that's a great sign that they've got body awareness and strength in all the right areas.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love all those movements. Not on my list, but I actually don't have an upper body push per se. But this next movement does somewhat utilize that. You probably know what it is. The Turkish get up.
I knew you were going to put that.
Yeah, well, yes, I think obviously it's hugely important. It's harder to learn, right? So there's technique and you need a coach generally or watch YouTube and really figure it out. So it's not a movement like a push-up where you can generally just jump into it. You gotta learn how to do it. But why? So this was my upper body push, right? Because you're obviously holding that weight overhead the entire time. So that was what I was going at with that. But when you look at like left to right, unilateral, functionality, balance, coordination, like athleticism overall, I love this movement. I'm amazed at the people sometimes that we see all over the place. They're pretty strong people, but the Turkish get up, chews them up, and spits them out.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know what it is, look it up. But what I like to see is 25% of your body weight per hand.
Yeah.
Okay, right side, left side for 1 rep. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you'll hold a 50-pound dumbbell and you do a Turkish get up. And then the other side, both arms. I don't think that's a lot to ask for.
No,
we have quite a few people here that weigh 165 to 185 that do 70 to 100 pounds per hand.
Yeah.
So that is definitely not a high level metric. But if me and you were to go into 10 high school weight rooms right now and test this, with that percentage, I would wager 10% would do it. And if someone listening that wants to take me up on that, I'll come to your weight room and we're just figuring it out. I think that'd be really cool to see that.
Absolutely.
And maybe it can motivate and stimulate, some, and open up some eyes, maybe I'll be proved wrong, I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, 25% body weight per hand for 1 rep, Turkish get up with perfect form.
Awesome. Yeah, we did a podcast a while back where we talked about the most beneficial exercises and movements that most people don't do, and you and I both said Turkish get up was one of our main ones on that list. Incredibly beneficial for so many different reasons. Look up if you're listening, look that up on YouTube, Turkish get up. There's some videos out there that will teach you the perfect form. There are some good videos on YouTube for this. Give it a try with just a very low weight, and assess yourself on that.
And even if you're not a high school athlete and you're listening to this, everything we laid out here is for you. Unless you have reasons not to do all these movements, but these are basic metrics, right? What we believe for a lot of people. That's today's episode. I want to remind everyone, the sponsors are what keep this alive, and allowing us to pay expenses. So Redmond, sea salt, and Relight supplement. We've been selling a lot of the Relight supplement. People love it. What is it? It's an electrolyte. Makes you feel a shit ton better. We take it, especially in the summertime, quite a bit. Our clients do. We're sweating. It increases energy. It's cheap. You can use the code COMO15, COMO15. We make a few bucks on the sale. Thank you very much. And you save 10%. Native Path also is sponsored, nativepath.com. Collagen supplements, a whole host of high quality grass-fed organic supplements, ones that we trust and use ourselves. Same code COMO15, you get 15% off those orders, and I think free shipping if you get a certain amount over 50 or 100 bucks.
We both use products from both of them. The Relight electrolyte supplement sometimes I use it 3 times a day.
Me too.
What I'm doing. And the Native Path, they make a bunch of great products.
And there's so many people we have heard in the last 2 months since being sponsored by them that have started this supplement that say, I used to drink a ton of water and I would just hit a wall in the middle of the day, or lacking energy and I'm sweating, but I'm drinking a lot of water. I didn't realize I was flushing electrolytes out of my system, which is why you feel like crap.
You're hydrated, but you have no electrolytes, and they're so important.
Yes, and you're sweating more than you think you are, okay? And then the third is Lombardi Chiropractic, personal chiropractor for me for 10 years, keeps my spine with jiu-jitsu healthy. He's worked with many, many clients here. I think it's 50% off x-rays in your initial package if you mention the Movement Gym podcast. Reach out to Pete, Dr. Pete. He's in Oneida, New York. Phenomenal guy. He's a long-term client. We train his family. High-level dude. He gets all of the stuff we talk about, so you probably have an instant friend.
All sponsors we truly believe in and use ourselves.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen, and stay healthy and stay free.
Thanks, guys. Bye.